Hello, this is my SF Masterworks collection. It's quite a small collection of science fiction with these distinctive yellow spines. The first book is The Body Snatchers by Jack Finney. This is about a doctor living in a small Californian town who realises that the residents are being replaced by exact copies who look and sound the exact same, but they are aliens. And he and his girlfriend decide to try and save the town and save wider humanity from these aliens who are taking over. And then we have a fun book called The Door into Summer by Robert A. Heinlein. This is about an inventor who basically gets tricked into being cryogenically frozen and, frozen for decades. And when he wakes up, he has to try and get back to his former life. It's a time travel story that's quite comedic. Then we have Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Keyes. This is about a very unintelligent but nice man who works as a cleaner called Charlie Gordon, and he basically volunteers for a medical experiment to make him incredibly intelligent, this super genius, but without giving too much away, the experiment is flawed, and he has to face the possibility that he's not going to be able to retain all the incredible knowledge he's learned. It's a very sad book. Then we have I Am Legend by Richard Matheson. This is set in Los Angeles, and it's about a man called Robert Neville, who is the last human being after a plague has basically turned everybody else into vampires, and he has to try and survive against this vampire horde that's trying to break into his home. But he's obviously fighting for survival every day. He's got no assistance, but he comes to realise that the vampires aren't quite what he thought they were. Then we have Wasp by Eric Frank Russell. This is essentially about a war between Earth's empire and an alien empire, and Earth decides to send a undercover operative to go to the alien empire, one of the worlds of the aliens, and cause as much chaos as possible. He's basically a terrorist who's there to blow things up, kill people, and just generally disrupt the aliens' ability to fight Earth. It's an enjoyable read. Terry Pratchett described it as a terrorist handbook. Then we have a classic science fiction horror book, Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. This is essentially a book within a book within a book. On the surface, you've got an explorer going to the Arctic, and he meets a doctor, Victor Frankenstein, who is dying out on the ice, and the doctor tells his story of how he created a monster, and then you hear the monster's own version of events. And the most interesting part of the book is the monster's own version, who is he's kind of created almost without care. The doctor doesn't really think through what he's going to do, and once he's created the monster, he's immediately horrified and rejects him. And that rejection, that kind of disgust that everybody has towards the monster, turns the monster into a real monster. It's a sad book that it is set, it has this cold setting. It's a very kind of like hostile, cold book, but it's a classic of the genre. I think really Mary Shelley was writing this in the early 1800s, so it's really one of the very first science fiction books you can find, really. Then we move on to Arkady and Boris Strugatsky, who were Russian writers, brothers, and this book, Hard to Be a God, is about a future Earth that's much more kind of technologically advanced and enlightened than we are, and there's a history department on this future Earth that basically goes out into different galaxies and visits other civilizations that are far more primitive, that are living kind of in a medieval period, and this is basically about an undercover operative who goes to this medieval world, and he's a kind of a nobleman there, and he's supposed to really just be an observer. That's the point of the history department. They are observers of history. They don't interfere with events in that world. And this operative, called Anton, finds it very difficult not to interfere with events as this medieval society takes a darker and darker turn. But he's got these moral choices to make about, can he remain this kind of historian outside events, or does he try to bring a kind of positive change, a revolution to this medieval world that's not really ready for modernity. Then we have another book by the same brothers, Arkady and Boris Strugatsky. This one's called Roadside Picnic, and in this scenario, aliens have visited Earth, but they haven't interacted with people. There's been no sort of communication there. They just landed and then quickly moved on, but they left behind these zones which are sort of highly radioactive areas that don't adhere to the laws of physics. There's all kinds of strange objects that the aliens left behind, and the title kind of alludes to that. It's as if the aliens had a picnic on our planet and then moved on, but they leave this mess behind that causes mutations, and it's very risky to enter the zone. But these specialists called stalkers, it's kind of a cottage industry to go into the zone and retrieve these artifacts the aliens have left behind and sell them. And this book really follows the story of one young stalker who's trying to survive in the zone. Him and his family trying to make ends meet. But it's really an interesting book. As usually, when there's an alien invasion, there's some contact there. There's like a threat there. But in this case, the aliens are not doing that. They were just stopping off. But the consequences are very severe for Earth from this visit. And the final book is The Man Who Fell to Earth by Walter Tevis. This is about an alien who comes from a dying planet, He visits Earth with the intention of basically becoming so rich that he will be able to build a spaceship and return to his home planet and rescue the survivors there. But as he's an alien, he very much struggles to fit in with Earth society. His body isn't adapted to Earth's gravity. He's very intelligent and knowledgeable, but he kind of succumbs to some of the pitfalls that are all too human, like alcoholism. Without giving too much away, his kind of initial goal of saving his people becomes increasingly difficult to achieve. This is another sad book. And that is the collection of SF Masterworks that I have. Thank you for watching.